Multiple playable characters are something that are iconic with the adventure style of Sonic games. But which game does it best? Throughout Sonic's long history, there have been a decent amount of 3D games that include playable characters besides him. They're even making a resurgence with the new Sonic game, Sonic Frontiers Final Horizons. So I want to go through every mainline 3D Sonic game that features multiple playable characters and see which game does it best. Now, I'm not going to really focus on how they control or play a lot, more so on how they're integrated into the game, if that makes any sense. So, before we begin, just make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. It helps me out and it helps my channel grow. And without further ado, I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get into the first game. First up is Sonic Adventure. Now, this is the first 3D Sonic game to do something like this, and I think it's not a bad start. How this game uses multiple playable characters is that each character has their own story connected to the main story, and we get to see everyone's side. Gameplay wise, each character goes through a set of stages that are curated to their gameplay style. Kinda, we'll get to that later. And you unlock different characters by getting to key points in another character's story. And in total, this game includes 6 characters: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Big, and Gamma. Now, I really enjoy this because if you really like a character you're playing as, you get to play the whole story uninterrupted until the end of their story. And for characters like Sonic, for me, this is really good because all of the stages are really well polished, and he has the most stages in the game. But the rough part is when you get to other characters. It's clearly obvious that the other characters did not get the same amount of polish as Sonic's story. Not a single character has the same amount of stages. Very few characters have original stages that don't use Sonic stages. Knuckles stages are literally just Sonic stages, mostly untouched. Tails stages are just Sonics with boost rings. You get the idea. And not only that, not a single story comes close to the length of Sonic's. If you're good, some stories can last as little as under an hour. So for Sonic Adventure, I get what they were trying to go for, and if you really like a character's playstyle, you can play as them alone, but the quality is not equal in every story, especially compared to Sonic. It's not a bad first attempt, but definitely not the best. Alright, now Sonic Adventure 2. This game has a similar idea where there's one overarching story with 2 different sides, but how they handle this with playable characters is much different. Instead of seeing each character's unique view of the story, instead they're split into teams, Team Dark and Team Hero, and you view the story from both sides. With this, each character is given their own stages that are specifically catered to them, which is already a huge plus because Speed characters stick to Speed stages, Hunters stick to Hunter stages, and Mech stages stick to Mech stages. And for the most part, the quality of the stages are pretty good. Oh no, get me out of here. Another thing to add is that since all the characters are put into one story, you get to play as each character equally, but that's kind of a double-edged sword. Cause yeah, you get to experience all of the characters equally. Sometimes you just want to play as one, like Sonic or Shadow, and not as Tails, and that can take away from the enjoyment, I think. I felt this especially with Shadow, since he only has 4 stages. I felt like I didn't get to spend enough time with him, and I really had a lot of fun with the stages. So SA2 seems to have some improvements to SA1, like the quality of stages, the amount of stages being much more equal to each other, but also some downgrades, like not being able to play as a character you want specifically. Up next is Sonic Heroes. Now this game is probably the most different out of all of the ones I'm going to talk about today. Now similar to SA2, it features different teams like Team Hero, Dark, and 2 new ones, Rose and Chaotix. And each story has 3 playable characters. Kind of. So how the gameplay works is that you play the game like you're controlling one character, but you have 3 characters on your team at all times, and you can swap between each one during gameplay. And the different characters are Speed type, another one is Flying, and another one is Power. And the level design is built around you constantly switching between them to get through the level as quickly as possible. So in reality, while it looks like 3, you're technically only playing as 1. Now, I mentioned stages, which leads to one of my massive problems I have with this game. Every stage is reused for every story. So once you beat the game for one story, you're basically just gonna beat the same game 4 times, because the rest of the stages, besides a few changes to the enemies and the difficulty, you're basically getting the same game. It gets so tiresome. By the time you're done with the 4th story, you basically played the same game 4 times, and it's hella annoying. So while in concept, the combination of all the characters into one does make for some unique, engaging level design, there is little to no variety in the rest of the stories, making each replay tedious and bland, because you're just playing the same game 4 times. And I know that has to do with time constraints, and they literally made this game in like under a year, and I just wish it wasn't the case, man. I gotta do a video on Heroes Development one day, man. One day, man. Up next is Sonic 06. Now, what's interesting about 06 is that it's the last game until Frontiers, which includes non-playable Sonic characters. So for this game, it looks like they're going back to their roots, taking on a more Sonic Adventure 1 style, because like in Sonic Adventure 1, each story mostly revolves around with my little Fortnite player of the Fortnite Renegade Widow. Each story mostly revolves around one character and their views on the overarching story. We have Sonic's story, Shadow's story, and Silver's story. And similar to SA1, you play as those characters in each stage of their story, and stages are reused but are rebuilt or edited to cater to their character's gameplay style. However, unlike SA1, you're not only playing as one character for the whole time. In each story, while yeah, you mostly do, in some levels, the main character may run into or be accompanied by their friends, and that's where the other playable characters hop in. And instead of full levels built around one specific character, it's a small part of a level that's catered to them, like in Flame Court, where you have that whole area that's just catered to Knuckles, or in Wave Ocean, where you have that section for Tails, or in Silver's Crisis City, where you have that section for Blaze. And me personally, I think this is the best way to integrate multiple playable characters, because while you can have other characters besides the main one, it doesn't take away from the character that you specifically want to play as, and it's more like an addition. And even though almost all of the stages are reused, there are some alternative versions for different stories, like Sonic's Tropical Jungle is actually the actual jungle, while Silver's is a more beautiful oasis area. It's a completely different stage. And even when you're in the same level, a lot of changes are made from character to character to make the stages feel wholly unique. So I really like how 06 does this multiple playable character stuff. It lets you play as the character you want while adding other characters, but still not making it feel like it's taking away from the main character. And the levels are unique enough from each other that I feel like one version of the stage is different enough from another. Finally, we have the most recent Sonic game, Sonic Frontiers: The Final Horizon. Now, how they work in this game is more similar to the End of the World from 06, where you play as all of them in one chapter, rather than all of them having their own story. Now, how it works in this game is that each character has a specific task, and once you complete said task, you move to the next character until you get all the Chaos Emeralds and reach the final boss. Now, it's a bit different from the past games since it's an open world, so all the level design that might be specifically designed for a character can technically be done by any character. Now, speaking of, that kind of reintroduces the problem from SA2 with wanting to play as a certain character. Now, after the most recent patch, I really do enjoy playing as all of the characters, but at launch, I remember loving Sonic, Amy, and Tails, but I always tried to run through Knuckles' portion as fast as possible, because truth be told, he was not fun to play as. But again, they fixed it, and I enjoy playing as all of them now. And on a first playthrough, it can be really confusing because there's no clear direction on what you're supposed to do. Like, I was stuck on Amy for like an hour before swapping to Knuckles. Also, you can't swap characters on the fly. Even when you beat all of the quests and you can switch characters, you have to go all the way back to the top of the 5th tower and go to the Master Coco. So Sonic Frontiers, I think it did an alright job for what it was trying to do. It went for a more end of the world style, which I'm okay with, but since it's an open world, you spend more time with these characters, and issues like the ones present in SA2 start to rear their head. But overall, it's not a bad execution. And we have officially looked at every mainline Sonic game and how they handle multiple playable characters. And in my opinion, which one does it the best? I think Sonic 06 does it the best, to be honest with you. It does a perfect mix of Sonic Adventure 1, where you get to play as the character that you want to play as, but it still adds different characters while not taking away from the main character, and the level design is different enough to where even if it reuses level tropes and level themes, it feels like a different stage. So that is why I think Sonic 06 does it the best. And that is all I have to say for today, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment down below what game you think does it the best. Maybe it's a different game, maybe it's not a mainline game, because I do know other games that do it, but we would be here forever. And I guess that's really all I have to say for today. I got nothing else to say. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe again, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye bye!